In today's episode for Ford Friday, the Ford Consul and Ford Zephyr Six. Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel here on YouTube, where we look at car brochures from all around the world. Today is no exception here on Ford Friday. We look at a Ford every Friday. Don't worry, many other makes and models during the week, but this is Ford Friday, so we're looking at the Ford Consul and the Ford Zephyr Six. Unusual little brochure actually, this one, so let's throw it on the board and have a look to see what it's got to offer. So here is today's brochure. It's only a small one, you can see, and it's more sort of like just a four-sided sheet essentially. But this is an interesting one. And I decided to look at this one today because it's got some interesting little things on there, and it's not quite what it seems at first. Let's just zoom in on the console first. So here is the console. You can always tell the lower console with the lack of bright work around the windows, but we'll look at that in a moment. But here's the console. It says most powerful imported 4-cylinder car in the low price field. So I guess that's the first little clue that this is not quite what it seems actually, this brochure. So this isn't an actual brochure selling the Ford Consul in the UK. And we can also notice on the picture there, it is a left-hand drive. And if I move the camera down, we can see the very nice Zephyr Six, all the extra bright work around the windows there, that fancier chrome grille, even a bit of a hood ornament on there. All clues this is obviously a higher spec car. It says on the car that won the 53 Monte Carlo Rally. So we can see straight away this is quite an old brochure. We can also see that this Zephyr 6 has been crossed out. Obviously I don't know why that was crossed out in the 50s, but it looks like it was a period crossing out. Whether that meant the customer wasn't looking at the Zephyr 6, maybe he was only interested in the Consul, or whether they no longer had any Zephyr 6s available, I don't know. But we see that crossed out on the back page when it's talking about the specifications for the Zephyr 6 as well, so that's a bit unusual. And then the text at the bottom, and hope you don't mind me just moving the camera there by hand, it says a Ford product made in England, sold all over the world. And looking inside, we may as well get the brochure stuff out of the way before we start looking at the car itself. It says copyright 1953, the Ford Motor Company, Dearborn, Mitch. All rights reserved, printed in USA, form number 4. So this is for the export market to the US. We've even got some nice dealer stamps. Ralph Hogan Inc., authorized Ford dealer, 1842 Broadway, New York. So it came from a New York dealership. And then we've got Jerry A. Freeman, Anglia Prefect Division, Ralph Hogan Inc., 1842 Broadway. So it's obviously a slightly different branch of Fords, where they were selling these European Fords by the looks of it. And one more little bit of a historical piece before we actually open the brochure, learn about the cars themselves. This little bit of very thin paper was actually inside this brochure. Been tucked in there since the 50s, no doubt, in typewritten. The scroll at the side there says Consul, so the customer who picked up this brochure was indeed looking at the Consul. Price $1,750 US. Heater was included, a defroster was included, directional signals were included, a radio was an extra $80, and then a personal comment. Not sure who this personal comment was from, the sales guy or maybe something that the customer may have said. Looks compact and nice. Strange little thing, but that's quite nice to find inside a brochure. I think that's quite nice to see that. Anyway, let's open the brochure up and learn a bit more about these cars. So when we look inside, yeah, that's where we found our dealer stamps there. It started showing the insides of these two cars, the Consul and the Zephyr Six. Obviously, the Zephyr Six was crossed out at the front, but we're still going to look at the Zephyr Six. There's no reason why not to. And then it sort of gives us some sort of like key features of the cars. But we'll start up here, have a look at the Consul, then we'll look at that image. So it tells us Consul offers long trip comfort for 5 adults. Deep, beautifully upholstered seats run full width of the car, are cradled between axles for restful riding. Front seat is readily adjustable. All 4 doors are full width, open wide so it's easy to get in and out. And there is the inside look of this particular model. Looks really nice, but obviously when we look at the Zephyr, it certainly is a step up. We don't get things like the rear armrests, etc. But let's just move down to the Zephyr 6. We've also got this rather nice little badge that it would have worn on the front of the car, a Ford product made in England. Obviously all these are drawings, and that isn't something that unusual in 50s brochures. Actually more unusual to actually show the car, but nice to see what the badge looks like. Anyway, like I say, let's move to the Zephyr. Zephyr 6 is luxuriously upholstered. Here indeed are all those refinements that distinguish a really fine car. Wide, deep sprung seats, comfortable armrests front and back, adjustable centre armrest in rear seat, plenty of room to lounge in comfort during the longest journey, and safety glass all round for your protection. And there is your Zephyr 6 interior. Those seats certainly do look nice, and like I say, you've got that centre armrest there. I always like that look with the black and then the red interior. It looks something else, doesn't it? Anyway, let's have a look at some more of the text, where it tells us today's family driving is increasingly short haul. To school, post office, market, the Consul and Zephyr 6 were designed around this basic idea. Stripped of all useless weight, all unnecessary overhang, they are largely finer, small cars that offer you great nimbleness, plus the comfort, safety and road ability of far larger cars. They are easy to drive, easier to park. So obviously, in the 50s, these would have been quite small cars when you compared them to the vast American Fords at the time. So that's how they're advertising it, as being little cars to nip to the store in. We got a little image here showing a centre slung seating. A little engine image there. Sorry for moving the camera around a bit. And then the text to go with that says, economy with unusual power and pep. The Zephyr 6 new type overhead valve engine offers larger bore than stroke, which means reduced piston speed, less wear, greater smoothness and longer engine life. The Consul 4 cylinder engine is of the same modern design. And then we get the key features. So extra roomy trunk offers 15 cubic feet of usable space, enough for all the luggage you'll carry on weekend or holiday trips. Note, rear filler gas cap. Both front and rear doors are square and open to a 90-degree angle, allowing ample room for entering and leaving. A large car feature that is unique in the small car field. The all-steel body is welded into one integral unit. This reduces unnecessary weight, yet actually adds to rigidity of the car, and thus to overall strength and safety. Foot controls are of the new pendant type. They are so designed that they descend from under the dash. This new feature eliminates cold drafts, engine and road noises. Spring cushioned clutch is hydraulically actuated with synchromesh transmission. It makes possible quick, smooth getaway, effortless gear shifting. Independent front wheel suspension features stout coil springs with built-in two-way shock absorbers and anti-sway bar. Smooths out bumps, gives shock-free ride, excellent road holding, easy access to engine compartment. For inspection and lubrication, raise hood by lift of the finger, and when closing it automatically snaps shut. And then finally the new full circle visibility, extra large one-piece curved windshield and generously sized picture windows mean safe visibility. And then that takes us to the console specifications and then the Zephyr 6 specifications, so let's have a brief look at those. So I'm going to pick out key points, but I think it should be clear enough for you to read if you wanted to pause the brochure to read it word for word, but I don't want to spend too much time going through the specifications, so I'll pick key points out. Starts by telling us it's a 4-cylinder cast integrally with upper half of crankshaft. Capacity 92 cubic inch, overhead valves, push rod operated by harmonic design. Goes on to tell us about the compression ratios then. BHP 47 at 4400 RPM. Free bearing camshaft with integral weights, etc, etc. It really goes into a lot of details about the engines in these older brochures. It then moves on to the engine lubrication, telling us a full pressure feed by submerged gear pump to crankshaft main bearings, connecting rod bearing and camshaft bearings through drilled passages in cylinder block and crankshaft, detachable full floor type oil filter base mounted on cylinder block, accessible dipstick and oil filter. Ignition is a 12-volt battery coil type. Cooling system, belt driven 11-inch diameter fan, water pump with thermostatic heat control, tube and fin type radiator. And then the transmission. It tells us it's a hydraulic, operated from pedal to heavy duty ball bearing thrust release, remote control steering column shift, second and third gears synchromeshed. So obviously it is not synchromesh on first gear. Steering high efficiency worm and sector type. Wheels and tyres pressed steel disc with wide base rims. Electrical equipment, 2 brush air cooled generator with adjustable V-belt and voltage control. Starter motor, push button operated solenoid engaged 12 volts vibrator air tone horn operated by button on steering wheel. Battery 12 volt 45 amp hour at 20 hour rate. 6-cell side by side mounted under hood. It then starts talking about the dimensions. I'm not going to go through all the dimensions there. Let's move on to the Zephyr 6. And again, the Zephyr 6 information has been crossed out for whatever reason. Whether the customer was just interested in the console, or whether the dealership were just trying to sell them a console, or the Zephyr just quite simply wasn't around. But of course the 6 is referring to it being a 6-cylinder engine, of course. Capacity 138 cubic inch, overhead valves, push rod operated but from harmonic cams in cylinder block. Talks about the compression ratio then. BHP 68 at 4000 RPM. It then starts talking about engine lubrication again, and then the ignition, 12-volt battery of course, cooling system, belt driven fan, water pump with thermostatic heat control, tube and fin type radiator, and then the transmission with an 8-inch diameter clutch, dry single plate spring cushioned, hydraulic operated from pedal to heavy duty ball bearing thrust release, remote control steering column shift, light action, synchromesh on second and third again. Steering again is that worm and sector type. It's now showing we've got a centre armrest, adjustable centre armrest, standard equipment. Wheels and tyres, pressed steel discs with wide base rims. Electrical equipment, 2 brush air cooled generator with adjustable V-belt and voltage control. Starter motor, electrical low note twin tone horn operated by horn ring on steering wheel. Battery 12 volt 45 amp hour at 20 hour rate. Now the bottom section here is telling us what's applicable to both the console and the Zephyr 6. Talking about the fuel system being a camshaft driven mechanical diaphragm type fuel pump, equipped with hand priming device, single downdraft carburetor with manual choke control and combined oil bath type air cleaner and silencer. Looks like we've got a gas tank at rear, capacity 10.8 US gallons. Front suspension is that independent front wheel suspension, employs a low rate coil sprung, utilising special hydraulic double acting telescopic shock absorbers integral with the wheel spindle assembly. The upper end of this unit rotates in an anti-friction bearing suspension in rubber and mounted on the sheet metal inside fender apron. The base of the wheel assembly is connected with a ball joint transverse stabiliser bar to a tubular cross member bolted to underside of the integral body. The triangulated anti-roll torsion bar holds the stabiliser in the fore and aft direction. The wide spacing and high roll centre front suspension, combined with accurate control geometry, gives excellent riding and steering. And then the rear suspension, quite simply, just tells us we've got semi-elliptic leaf springs with hydraulic double-acting shock absorbers. Brakes, hydraulically internal expanding, self-energising front brakes. Obviously drum brakes all round, and then the front brake operated on all four wheels. Handbrake on rear wheels only, which makes sense. Instruments, the indirectly illuminated conveniently grouped cluster, which is immediately in front of the driver, includes speedometer, ammeter, fuel gauge, oil pressure, warning light, direction indicator warning lights, ignition warning light and high beam warning lights. Instrument panel lights controlled by push-pull switch on instrument panel. Controls, starter, choke, combined ignition and lighting switch, instrument light and windshield wiper, plastic control knobs, foot operated headlamp dimmer switch. Then it starts talking about the body itself, telling us it's an all steel welded integral construction with all seats located between the axles, safety glass all round, one-piece curved windshield and rear window, hand-operated vent windows in front doors, quarter lights, cloth headlining, safety design push-button door handles, built-in barrel lock in right front door handle, adjustable full-width tubular construction bench-type front seat, spacious 15 cubic foot luggage compartment accessible from outside the car, spare wheel housed in the well in luggage compartment floor. And then the standard equipment includes dual windshield wipers with mechanical operated camshaft driven vacuum pump, booster, flush type headlamps mounted in front fender, separate parking lamps, two flush mounted combination tail and stop lights, rear license plate illuminated lamps, interior lights, two swivel type sun visors, two ashtrays in front, one in rear, semaphore type direction indicators operated by self-cancelling switch on steering wheel, rear view mirror and built-in fresh air ventilation system. And then the accessories provision is made for installation of combination hot water heater defroster and also radio. And then we've got the usual brochure nonsense. Ford Motor Company, whose policy is one of continuous improvement. We can change things at any time, etc, etc. And it says at the bottom, they're sold in the United States by Ford Motor Company. Dearborn, Mitch. So there we go, the very interesting Ford Consul and Zephyr 6 in a very interesting brochure with nice little secrets hidden inside. I quite like when I find bits like that and a nice dealer stamp in there as well. Do you remember these consoles or Zephyr 6s? Please jot in the notes your memories, whether you're in the US, in Europe, or indeed anywhere in the world. Always interesting to hear your stories, but thank you so much for watching today. I'll end as we always do by saying please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Helps the channel. You'll never be charged just to being a subscriber, so click on that now, and indeed click that little bell if you want to be notified when new episodes are released. But thank you so much for those who have become a subscriber. Those who have watched the episode to this point, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon, and goodbye.